created a little slideshow because I think people have sometimes trouble with reading chest X-rays, and I think reading chest X-rays is a big part of medical school and medicine. But what I put down here, I think, will help you out. Put in a few tips and whatnot. I think it'll help you out. And in addition to that, I hope everybody's doing good. I know we haven't done this in a minute. Kenny's here too to help me do this. Kenny, you have something to say?
Oh, not much. Just
All right,
excited to be here.
all right, let's roll. So this is the PA view of chest X-ray. What I have done here is like this is from I think Netters. If you, I'll give you guys these slides too, this PowerPoint, so you can like go along with this. Um, but basically, this view right here that's in front of us is gonna be what's on the PA view. So if you look here, right? Let me. So on this picture, I'm gonna have my notes so make sure so I can hit all the key points. On the right side, right? So coming up of here, this entire right border is gonna be consists of the right atrium. The entire right border is made out of the right atrium because right ventricle forms like the interior portion of the heart. And then as you go up, the part where it strains up, that's gonna be, guess what, Kenny? What do you think that part is gonna be?
IVC.
IVC, right?
IVC or SVC, one of those.
SVC. Sorry, yeah, you're right.
SVC.
SVC. So everything from the diaphragm up to the hilum is gonna be right atrium. Hilum and up is gonna be SVC. And if the patient takes a deep breath in, you see how it like the curve and it strains up. You can see kind of the same thing on the caudal side, but down here. And if you see the same thing here, that's going to be your IVC. Now on the left side, from your diaphragm to your hilum is going to be consist of what? Which is up to here.
Left ventricle.
Left ventricle, right? And then this part where it's like concave, that's going to be what?
Your right atrium. No,
No,
left atrium.
left atrium.
Left atrium.
Because right atrium forms the right border, right? The entire border
Right.
on this side is right atrium. You can't really see right ventricle. That's an important point to make. You can't really see right ventricle on a PA chest X-ray. If you want to see right ventricle enlargement or something, you probably are gonna need a lateral. So this concave part is left atrium, and right above that you have the hilum, and then the aortic arch. Right below the aortic arch is where the pulmonary arteries are, and all of this is gonna be, and it's gonna be right above the tracheobrachial ankle, like you know where the carina bifurcates. So the carina bifurcates. I don't know if you can see it, but so it's gonna be the aortic arch is gonna be right above that. So that, I think sometimes if you play with the contrast, like you can see it. Maybe on the next X-ray or another chest X-ray, but I think it's bifurcating here. So the aortic arch is right below above the tracheobrachial ankle. Anyways, it's really hard to see on this one. Anyways,
Yeah.
so based on that, if you look, I think there's a picture like this on our RRE slide. So what do you think is like these two wires, like 1 and 2, based on what I said? Where is lead these wires are, you would say?
The right atrium and the right ventricle.
Yeah, right here, right?
Gosh.
So like let's just go through these real quick. One, it would be what?
Right ventricle.
One
Right
would be
ventricle?
right atrium because like I said, you can't see right ventricle on a PA.
Yes, yeah. All right.
2 would be hilum, right?
Uh huh.
3, what do you think 3 is?
Three, left ventricle.
Left ventricle. 4,
Right, left atrium.
left atrium. 5,
Mm, hilum or something?
yeah, hilum. And then 6 is like uh, aortic arch. So the pump, I think I can see it here. If I back away, this is where the carina is right here. So the aortic arch and the pulmonary artery is right above the the bifurcation of the trachea. All right, good.
All right.
Uh, Next one, if you look here, it's the same. It's the same thing. This representation really helps. So on a lateral view, the heart kind of looks like a triangle here. If you guys see my cursor, it kind of looks like a triangle. Now, if you look here, I kind of like demarcated the areas. So, um, and then this helps too. So on the lateral view, the anterior border of the heart is going to be made of what mostly?
Left ventricle.
Left
Anterior
ventricle?
border? Oh, wait,
Yeah.
no, right ventricle. Right ventricle.
Yeah, it's gonna be made of mostly the apex and the right ventricle outflow tract, which is right here. So the bottom portion is gonna be the right ventricle. As it goes up, that's gonna be right ventricle outflow tract. And so this view, like I said, the first view, the PA is not really good for um, looking at right ventricle enlargement. So this lateral view is really good for detecting like right ventricle enlargement. Also, like the left atrium is right here. So the left atrium enlargement is also good, as well as left ventricle enlargement too. The only thing you can't really see here is the right atrium, which you can see really well on the PA. Remember, the entire right border is made out of the right atrium, right?
Right.
Right, remember, right?
Uh
Like
huh.
the entire border is right atrium.
Mhm.
Okay, so next, and then this posterior border is gonna be mostly the posterior border is mostly gonna be left atrium right here, and left ventricle is gonna be um, so posterior border, like this bottom portion, is gonna be left ventricle, and up here is gonna be left atrium, and behind the heart, right behind it, is gonna be the esophagus. So sometimes when the heart is enlarged, it can like push or like cause like an indentation on the esophagus too. And another cool thing is like you can't really see valves on chest X-rays unless they're like valve replacements. But if you draw a line from where the hilum is, right, to the apex, anything above that is gonna be your like aortic valve. Anything below that is gonna be your mitral valve. So if like let's say the hilum is around somewhere here, right, and if you draw it to the apex, anything above that is aortic, and then anything below is the mitral. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Is that in every case? Like
Yeah. Yeah,
like
I
like
think there's a picture that'll show you like if you see like artificial valve and you're wondering if it's aortic or if it's mitral. I think the aortic valve moves more. It has a more like vertical representation. But if you draw a line like that, that usually sticks.
Mhm. All right.
All right. So based on that, what I just said, where do you think these leads and wires are on this one?
Oh shit,
Or let's
man.
go through the numbers real quick. So where is A in?
I don't know, man. You gotta teach me. I don't
Okay.
know what this is.
All right. So like I said before, on the lateral view, right? On the lateral view, the anterior border is mostly made out of the right ventricle. So we know,
Mhm.
and then the posterior border is made out of mostly like left ventricle, right? So if it's up here and down, that's mostly is gonna be a right ventricle. And right above that, even though you can't see it on a lateral, like right above that is obviously gonna be right atrium. And 7 is gonna be your left ventricle. 8 most likely right ventricle outflow tract. So let's see here down here. So 7 and 8. Uh, yeah, so 7 and 8 is gonna be left ventricle, right ventricle, and then A is in your right atrium. But the way it is like um, it's uh, it's like in the same plane, but it's more. Hmm.
In the same like coronal plane? The coronal is not that. I
So
don't know.
it's the right
Sagittal
atrium.
plane?
You can't really see the right atrium here because it's on a lateral view. The right
Uh,
atrium lies in a more like I said, yeah, coronal plane. This is more like a sagittal plane. So the right
yeah.
atrium is more like in the same area, but it's more like down few more slices down in one
Yeah,
direction.
yeah. Hmm.
That makes sense.
I get what you
But
mean.
basically, just remember with an lateral view, the anterior border is going to be entire anterior border is going to be made out of the right ventricle. You can't see the right atrium on a
Hmm.
um, on a lateral view, just like you can't see the right ventricle on a lateral view. The right ventricle is like right here. It forms the anterior part of the heart, so you can't see that
Right.
on a PA view, and the right atrium forms the right border. So on a lateral view, you're not going to be able to see that. It's just the same reason why you can't see the right ventricle. Like you see, like it forms the front of it. So on a lateral view,
Right,
this
right.
comes through this and left ventricle comes really good in profile, but this is kind of like overshadowed. So in that one, the lead that's the atrial lead is like here, and the ventricle lead is here. But how do you think that'll look on a side view? You know what I'm saying? They'll look like right on top of each other. So that's
Yeah.
so that's why it looks the way it does here. So I'm just gonna summarize. I know I said
Hmm.
a lot of things on a PA. The entire right border is made out of right atrium, SVC. The entire left border down here is made out of left ventricle. The concave part is left atrium. So if the left atrium enlarges, this concave part can become straight or even convex. And right above that, you have your hilum, pulmonary arteries, aortic arch, and the aortic arch is like right above where the trachea bifurcates. So the trachea bifurcates right here, and right, it's like even so the trachea bifurcates below where the aortic arch is. All right, I'm not gonna keep beating up a dead horse here. Okay, so yeah. All right, so next, so I think in here, I'm just gonna go through a few things that are like to take away. Uh, that's gonna help. That's gonna help you out. So, I think one important thing that with REs and stuff we notice is like you have to localize a lesion, right, to see what lobe it
Hmm.
is. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm gonna teach you something that's gonna really help out. So on the on the left lung, there's only one fissure, right? It's only the oblique fissure. So if
Uh,
it's above the oblique fissure, it's upper lobe. If it's below the oblique fissure, it's lower lobe, right? But
yeah.
on
Uh-huh.
the right lung, there's two fissures. There's a horizontal fissure and there's an oblique fissure. So, but so just like remember this. So if you this is the hilum, right? So and
Hmm.
then these are the ribs. So you see how these ribs like curve, right? So if you count down like to the sixth rib, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So actually, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if
Right.
you draw a line from the hilum to the lateral border of the five or sixth rib, that's your horizontal fissure.
Right.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So like the lateral border of the sixth rib, if you draw a line from here to here, it's like if you see a faint white line, that's your horizontal fissure. So if you see a lesion above that, it's gonna be upper lobe. If it's below that, it could be middle or lower lobe, because the right lung has three lobes. And then
Hmm.
as far as the hilum on the left side, It could be higher than the left normally. And the hilums, they should be like usually concave. And the mediastinum borders, they should always be clear. And then costophenic angles, they should always be clear. Okay, so now
Right.
this is the oblique fissure. Okay, so the oblique fissure, the way you measure is like if you go from like T4 or T5 and you draw a line to like anterior, this is like very dramatized, but these are the fissures. So if you draw a line from T4 or T5 to the anterior 1/3 of the diaphragm, that's your oblique fissure.
Mhm.
And then if you draw a line from hilum to just straight forward, that's gonna be your horizontal fissure. And you're gonna see how this plays in or comes into effect. Like I'm gonna go to a few slides where you're gonna have to localize a lesion, and you'll see. All right, just to recap,
Right.
Kenny, um, where where do the horizontal fissure on a PA chest X-ray run? Like where would you say it's at if you had to
From
draw
the
a fissure?
hilum to the sixth rib.
So what part of sixth rib?
What part of sixth rib?
Yeah,
I don't know. The
just like the lateral
posterior
part,
part?
the
Maybe.
axillary part. This,
Lateral part. Right, right,
yeah.
right.
So
Uh-huh.
it's like hard to see, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the six like curves around here. So somewhere here. So if there's a line from here to here, that's gonna be a horizontal fissure always on the right side, and there's no horizontal fissure on the left side. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
So, all right, and then on a lateral view, where do the fissures run, Kenny?
From T4 to the anterior part of the diaphragm, I think you said.
Okay, and then it's gonna be hard to figure out, okay, what's T4, T5, right? So what you do is like you see
Uh-huh.
how the spine curves, right?
Yeah.
The point where that's like the midpoint, where like this, anything above this is like curving upwards. Anything below here is curving downwards. Just find the midpoint where it's like the center of the curve. That's gonna be your T4 or T5. So just go from there to
Mm,
the anterior 1/3 of the diaphragm, that's going to be your oblique fissure. So when you have these fissures, now if they put a lesion right here, that's upper lobe. If they put a lesion right here, that's middle lobe. And if there's a lesion here, that's lower lobe. You get what I'm
so
saying?
this oblique fissure, you're talking about the right oblique fissure though. Is that the same for the left oblique fissure though?
Yeah. Only difference is on the left one, there's not going to be a horizontal fissure. It's just going to be
Right.
the left oblique fissure. So in this one,
So the
if you
oblique
see a
fissure, the
lesion, right?
same position on both lungs?
Yeah, roughly. It'll
Okay.
be because on the left one, um, it's like a very wide like range. If you see the fissure, if there's because it's gonna be their upper lobe or lower lobe. But the thing is, if you see a lesion here, right, you're like, okay, that's upper lobe, definitely, right? You're gonna have to go on the PA to see if it's on the right lung or left lung because you can't see that on the lateral. I'll show you what I mean. Like, watch. Okay,
Right.
localizing lesions, right? So this is what I'm talking about. You see the oblique fissure, you see that, right?
Yeah.
And then only on the right lung, you have the horizontal fissure. So this is where the hilum would be, you know, and where the pulmonary arteries and whatnot would be. And from here, it's if you find T4 or T5, the lateral part of T4 and T5, and you draw a line, that's where you're going to be a horizontal fissure,
Mm,
right?
right.
And you can't find the oblique fissure on a PA. Okay, so all right, next. Uh, okay, so on this one, right, this lesion, where do you think it is? So first, obviously, right or left lung.
I mean, that's the right and I mean
So
that's
right,
upper lobe, I
so
think. I feel like.
yeah, why is that?
Mhm. I mean, it's just I don't know, even without the, you know, hilum to the fifth um edge of the sixth rib, like, there's nothing really much more above that. So I just feel like That's just
Right,
beautiful
right. But if
failure.
you just wanted to be sure, if you
Uh-huh.
just wanted to be sure, like, let me see. So this is one,
Use
two, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Six.
uh,
Lateral part of sixth rib right here. Hilum is right here. That's your fissure where that one number one line is, right? Where they
uh-huh.
pointed. That's your fissure. So anything above that is going to be upper lobe. Anything below
Hmm.
that could be middle or lower.
Yeah.
And
I
like I
think it'd be
said,
definitely harder to like.
huh?
Uh-huh.
Say that again.
I feel like it'll be much harder to, find the lead, like say whether the lesion's in the middle or the lower lobe, as
Yeah,
opposed to like trying to get it from like a middle to from an upper. Because I feel upper is just it's much more obvious. Like for me at
exactly.
least, it seems
Yeah,
pretty more
exactly. And I'm
more
gonna
straightforward.
I'm gonna talk about one more thing that they say uh, helps you out. They talked about in the RE, which is called the silhouette sign. Basically, what it
Right.
is that you see how the heart border is clear, right? It's very distinct.
Yeah.
If there
Hmm.
was a mass next to it, the border is not as clear because now there's something next to it. You can't distinctualize which one's which. So they call it's like silhouetting the border, right? Now the
Right.
if it's silhouetting the hard border, then it's like on the left side, it's they call it it's the left upper lobe. But if it silhouettes the diaphragm, then it's a lower lobe.
Hmm.
And if it silhouettes both, then it could be both. So that's one thing they pointed out in this like slide here, which is that this on the left side, you see the hard border is silhouetting, right?
Hard border.
Yeah, on the
Mm.
left side, can you really
Right.
distinctualize the left border of the heart as well as like
Yeah.
look at this one. You see how it's a nice clean border, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So how about on this one? Can you distinctualize that border? You can't, right? Because there's other stuff next to it.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's blending in. That's called it's silhouetting, but you can still see the diaphragm, right?
Hmm.
So what they're
Yeah.
saying is because this part of the heart or this part of the border is being silhouetted, but this part is clear, that means it's
Hmm.
probably superior lobe.
Right.
So
Uh-huh.
that's what they're explaining with the as the most confusing way possible is that because only a structure on the left upper lobe or something in the left upper lobe is being silhouetted, but this part is not being silhouetted, that means the lesion is in the superior lobe. If it was both, then they might say like anytime the diaphragmatic border is being silhouetted, it's usually lower lobe. And if it's usually the hard border being silhouetted, if it's on the right side, it could be the middle lobe or the superior lobe. But on the left lobe, if the hard border is being silhouetted, it's usually the upper lobe that's affected. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Hmm. Yeah.
That's what they did here. You see, like in this case, I guess it would be like both lobes being affected. But in this one, if the diaphragmatic border is still distinct, that means left lower lobe is clear or good.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We already did this. And then in this case, so it's the same lesion, you know. Now we know it's on the right side. Now, if we wanted, we already know because it's above the horizontal fissure, it's got to be upper lobe. But if you wanted to like look here too, like I said, and they give you a little this like diagram here. So I said the horizontal fissure runs from. I'm not even gonna count. I say this is the vertebrae. That would be the center point, right? Anything above this
Hmm.
curves upward. Anything below this curves downward.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
This vertebrae. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that's T5. And if I draw a line from here to the anterior one third, that's gonna be my oblique fissure, and from the hilum to the straight, that's gonna be my horizontal fissure. So I know this is above both the horizontal fissure and the oblique fissure, like this shows here. So it's definitely like upper lobe. You get what I'm saying? So if it was like,
Mhm.
if I drew an oblique fissure from T5 to anterior one third right here, and then I have my horizontal fissure here, if it was like here, then it could be like middle lobe. You
Mhm.
understand?
Yeah.
Like look at this little diagram here. Yeah. All right. Okay, so now we got the hard, like the fissures. So basically, to summarize, if they tell you to localize a lesion, use the silhouette sign. If the hard border is being obscured, it's the upper lobe. If the diaphragmatic border is being obscured, it's the lower lobe. If the only the hard border is being silhouetted, but the left, or if the only the hard border is being silhouetted, but the diaphragmatic border is clean, then it's definitely an upper lobe. If the diaphragmatic border is being silhouetted, but the hard border is clean, then it's the lower lobe. And this is like using the silhouette sign, and then use the two fissures I told you, like draw a line from the hilum to the lateral border of the sixth rib or the fifth rib. That's gonna be a sixth rib. Go with sixth rib. That's gonna be a horizontal fissure on the lateral hilum to the anterior chest. Like you see this little line right there. That's your horizontal fissure. T5 anterior one third. That's your oblique fissure. And once you have those, wherever the lesion is, you can just tell like where it is. And remember, the left lung is not going to have a horizontal fissure, so that makes it even easier. So that's all you need to localize where a specific lesion is. So basically, find out if it's right lung or left lung on a PA, and try to find out if it's above the horizontal fissure on a PA. Like, because you can only see the horizontal fissure on a PA. So find out if it's right or left. Um, like in this one, so I know it's like the right lung. It's above the horizontal fissure. In this one, it's made easy because if it's above the horizontal fissure, you know it's upper lobe. And then um, once you know it's right or left, and go on a lateral to like definitely pinpoint where this lesion is, like lengthwise. So the PA is good for differentiating right or left, and the lateral is good for differentiating like up and down. All right, that's all I'm gonna say about that. And then